Test. Cool. All right. So just before, so we're creating animation not just for artistic, kind of aesthetic pleasure of the player, but also as a feedback point because the player needs to know when they're doing stuff. So did we talk about this before? I don't think we did. So you can kind of see when the enemy's attacking on the bottom, it does like a really obvious squish, and then it does like a wobble up when it's attacking. And subconsciously over time, basically the player learns that this is an indicator of when it's going to attack. If you've ever played a game where there's no feedback and the attack just happens, you can kind of do it by timing it, but it doesn't quite work as well. This gives a very clear indicator of when something's going to happen. And then like in games like Skyward Sword, if anyone's played that, it even tells the player direction of attack and like strength of attack and type of attack depending on the animation. So again, it's a method for the player to learn over time what's going to happen. And then we have feedback as well, where we have things like the feedback of the sword swipe, like that kind of trail. That's part of animation feedback because it describes the hitbox arc. So if you hit that hitbox arc, you know you take damage. And then like when you have animations, like when you get a hurt animation, it's really obvious. Again, these are all feedback for the player to understand. There's a game called Rogue Legacy, and you can kind of see there's a number of concepts in here. There's like a slash when you see the little. I know it's running really sped up, but you see the slash. That's the hitbox, and when they attack, they have a little pause. I don't know if you can notice, like just before it attacks, it almost holds like half a frame before it attacks. So all these are kind of like aids for the player to understand what an enemy is going to do and what their player is going to do. So all these animation concepts follow these things called the 12 principles of animation. They come from animation, like Disney animation. They were created by Disney back in like the 50s or something, whenever animation first started. And these 12 principles are very simple, and we're going to try and use them when we are animating. So the first one is squash and stretch. So we saw that already with that first example I gave you with the little thing that squashed and stretches. When you squash, it has to maintain volume. So if I squash down, it has to expand on the sides. And similarly, when I stretch it out, it also has to maintain volume. Because you can't just squash it. That just makes it look like it's going smaller. It needs to expand out the sides as well. So it maintains volume. So you can see that in the ball. The top ball, like the motion is the same for both, but the bottom one feels a lot more animated, and it feels a lot more like it's moving because you can see it stretching and then squashing on impact and then leaving the same. So when we apply it to a game, you can kind of see that concept being applied in this GIF, which it's going to take a while. So you see that kind of wobble that it does. It makes it feel more animated, but also that wobble, when it squishes down, it comes at the sides as well. So it's always maintaining volume, and it gives a sense of like weight and movement. This is anticipation. So anticipation is the thing I was talking about when you saw the GIF of the skeletons. They kind of hold for a sec before they do something. That concept is anticipation. So like it's when I'm about to throw a punch or swing a bat or like a weapon or anything, I pause a little bit and I pull back, and it looks like I'm getting ready to do whatever action it is. And it serves two purposes. One, it makes the action feel a lot more like on purpose, I guess. Like it's a lot clearer. And the second purpose of this animation of anticipation is that it also gives the player time to kind of understand that things going to happen. You can also have a thing at the end, especially in games. We have this after an attack. You can see it in the bottom. After an attack, almost always an enemy will pause. And this gives you time to react to the attack. So you're trying to dodge and then react while they're paused. Staging is the concept of just literally where your camera is looking. So we'll have a look as well. Maybe we'll see later. No, it has to be next week actually, because we're gonna add code in. We're gonna have a look at basic camera angles and like how wide the field of view is gonna be, following player characters, stuff like that, and how it works. It changes, I guess, like how a player views. So where you're placing the camera, especially in 3D. This is from Shadow of the Colossus. And when you go near the Colossus, it'll move the camera down and look up at the Colossus, so they look bigger, they look more impressive. We talked about that already last time. And then it also applies to like cutscenes and stuff like that, where you aim the camera and what you're looking at. That whole concept is staging. This concept is, so we've done straight ahead action. Straight ahead action when we did the sprite sheets. So straight ahead action just means like I'm moving here, then here, then here, then here, and you're like one by one doing those frames. And that's what we did with the sprite sheets. Today, we're going to be doing something called pose to pose. And pose to pose uses computer interpolation. So if my arm is here and I want to end up here, if I do straight ahead, I would do like one frame, one frame, one frame, one frame, and one frame. Pose to pose is I would be like, here's one pose, there's the final pose, and I'm telling the computer to do something called tweening. So it'll interpolate in between, that's why it's called tweening, those two poses, and it does that automatically. So we'll be looking at that today. That's what we'll be using. Follow through and overlap. Follow through is the concept of like, after you make a movement, you continue the movement. So if I throw a punch, I don't just like stop on impact. I generally like follow through after, and that again increases the weight of the punch and the weight of the movement, and makes it feel a lot more deliberate. Overlap is this concept. If you see, that one only has like 2 or 3 frames, the robot thing. And overlap is where different parts of the body shouldn't move at the same time. So the most common example is if I have an idle cycle, so I'm just breathing. If you have an idle cycle, the basic like beginner mistake is just to have everything move at the same time, and that just does not look real. Things overlap. Our bodies don't move with everything at the same time. So I might have my body move and then my arm follows, or vice versa. They always move at like different rates. So you can kind of see that happening. Like things are moving at different frames. They don't all move down at the same time and then up at the same time. Some things are down, while other things are up there, moving in different directions. So it's overlap, and it makes it feel a lot more realistic. Again, we'll look at it. Slow in, slow out, you don't have to worry about it too much because we're using tweening. And in tweening, that example of like my hand here to hand here, that would mean it accelerates, so it slowly moves and then gets faster and then slows down at the end. That's slow in, slow out. And that's most movements follow that kind of like rule. When you move something, there's mass, so it takes some time to build up speed. And then when you slow it down, you take some time to decelerate. So it's the same kind of concept. Luckily, for animation tools, which we're going to be using, they automatically do that for us. They can set in like a slow and slow out, and ease in or ease out for us. And it's really important to use slow and slow out for attacks as well, especially in games. So you'll see this like just before the attack, there's a little like acceleration, like it's a little pause, and then the attack happens. And on the attack, there's like almost like literally a freeze frame. The entire frame freezes on the attack to just give you an indication and make it clear to you that you've made the attack. Okay. Secondary actions are this concept of like the main action is the running in this case. So, go away, please. So the main action is the running. The secondary actions are the hair bobbing up and down, and then the tie moving. So there are kind of other actions that are related to the main action that sell the main action. Like basically accentuate what happens. They can also be stuff in the background of the scene. So you know those little starfish we made and all the kind of like decor in the background that animates, those are all secondary actions as well. They're all just like kind of like I guess visual clutter, animation clutter. These two have the same amount of frames. They're both 4 frames. One feels a lot bouncier and a lot faster, the one on the right, and the one on the left feels a lot slower and more deliberate. And that's just the timing that you have in them. So it's not necessarily about the frames, but it's also how things move. We will also be looking at that today. So depending on how long I make, let's say if I make a punch, if I throw a punch, if I make it a really slow wind up and then really fast and then a really slow down, that makes it feel a lot heavier than just like all linear. And literally the only difference is change is timing. So timing is really important in like selling what an animation does. And then we've got like exaggeration, which we use a lot in games. So cartoons use it a lot, and games use it a lot as well. And back to that same example, like look at how squashed it is. That meat blob is squashing like almost half of its height. You can't really tell because it's going so fast, but we're exaggerating it because we're looking at it at a really small size on the screen. And also it's a fast-paced game, so things have to be really clear to the player. So we exaggerate and we overemphasize. A lot of like character idols, especially for platformers, they're bopping up and down like almost half their height. But when you zoom out and when you see it in game, it looks fine. So this concept is solid drawing, which means just make things look a little bit more 3-dimensional. If you're working in 3D, this works anyway. for 2D, if you'll notice for my character that I created, you'll notice that I didn't do a exact side profile. It's not like directly side on. Most 2D games, if they make a 2D character, they'll have this thing called a 3/4 profile. So it'll be like almost as if it's like Egyptian hieroglyph, kind of half, 3/4 turned towards the camera. And I have that there. So if it was side profile, you wouldn't see the eye. The porthole. You wouldn't see the front of the chest. You would just see only the side. But it doesn't look very good. Most of the time, we want to try to have this kind of three-dimensionality, and that is that concept, that solid drawing concept. That appeal is this kind of like nebulous thing. It's hard to say what it is, but appeal is just basically make something look, I guess, like not disgusting, not like, depending on the kind of game you want to make. Generally, your main character is like not, it's like it's appealing to people. It's like friendly, has big eyes, big smiles, this kind of stuff. Features that are not like, I guess, disgusting almost. Like they make a character they make a player want to be part of the character. So like, I don't know if anyone's ever played Minecraft. When you change a wolf to a dog, they literally put an extra pixel, and that extra pixel on the eye just makes the eyes look bigger. And it's just one pixel, but it makes such a difference. Yeah. Are you just scratching? Oh, sorry. I thought you were putting your hand up. Sorry. Okay, so we're not going to watch this, but just like, here's another example of the overlap thing. So on the left, everything's moving at the same time. On the right, things are moving at slightly different speed and at slightly different frames, and it just feels a lot more realistic. We'll go through all of that. I won't do the analysis. I just want to show you some of like, one of the most important things you need to do is weight as well. So you want to sell weight. When we animate, we're going to try and make things look as if they have gravity, because we don't have real gravity. We can simulate a lot of gravity, but when we're animating, we have to add that animation, that weight ourselves. So here's like an example of a bad animation, or I think it's bad. What's wrong with it?
What do you mean? It's beautiful.
Okay, why is it good then?
It's good. It's exactly how people walk.
It's like an example of like something that's bad. It's almost okay, but it's so. Yeah, so we like, first of all, we have like if you take into account of weight, if you do that, your center of gravity moves forwards, which means you start falling. So it's unrealistic. It doesn't feel natural. Anything else? Yeah, so like when you're walking, like you can look at something called a walk cycle. If you search Google walk cycle, there'll be frames of animation that show you what a walk cycle should look like. And you shouldn't like that is like always bent. So you're always like, which again, it's not realistic. You generally like go up and down as well. If you look at the her kind of shoulder level, it goes down once, but it doesn't do it again. When you're walking, you have this kind of sine wave, like up and down motion. The chest doesn't move as well. Like when you walk, you kind of have a compression. Like you move a little bit of your upper body. So there's no like real, and the head is like just like perfectly straight. So it's bad because there's a lot of like these extra follow throughs and weight animations that aren't applied. What? You could be, I don't know, it's not even that creepy, because if you look at a good horror character, if I was going to make a horror character, it should be unnatural, but that's not even that, it's not even good enough to be unnatural, I think. It should be, when you see the horror characters, they're usually jerky. So they're actually using the correct motion, but the timing is off, generally. So they're moving correctly, but because the timing is weird, you know, where they like kind of stutter and jitter, and that's generally what makes it weird. Then this is a great animation, because you see all the things we talked about. We've got follow through. So like, if you think about weight, the main core of the body moves first, and then the head follows, because the head is attached to the body, and the body is the main thing. So you can kind of see that happening. And as the body is starting to move backwards, the head is still continuing forwards and then follows it. And it's almost like a wave, like a leaf kind of thing, going back and forth. Then we have secondary animations. You can, I don't know if you can see there, but the knees are moving a little bit, just a tiny little bit, and they're reacting to like the rest of the movement. And then the swords at the back are like waving just ever so slightly. They're all extra secondary animations that sell the main one. Even the little like rocket thing in the back, it's like kind of moving a little bit. So they're all selling it. Right, so pixel art in particular is really good to look at for exaggeration because it shows like it has a lot of squash and stretch and has a lot of that kind of like gamey quality that we're kind of looking for. We're not doing pixel art for this, but a lot of it can be useful. So this is a walk cycle. And I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest way to create a walk cycle and get it done. But if you want to look at each frame, this is a frame by frame walk cycle. This is a 9-frame walk cycle. And this is kind of what you should be using to reference or something like this. And you can see the problem with what someone said that her legs were bent the whole time. And there you can see there, one of the legs, when you go back up, it should extend. And the same extends when it's going forward, and it only bends on impact. Stuff like that, so you can have a look at the frames and see how they're set up. And that's like the actual animated walk cycle. So enough of this theory. We're going to go into Unity and create. I've already pre-created this character. Let me just open this. So all I made was something like this. I'll open it in Photoshop so you can have a look at it too. Essentially what it is a PNG. It's just a flat PNG with all the pieces of the body separated. The reason, oh no, it's really dark. Let me put on a lighter screen. You see that a bit better with it off? Yeah, okay. So I just had this because I wanted to see the how light it was as well. I'm actually going to lighten the whole thing because I can't see it here. So let me just do a layer, adjustment there, and I'll do a brightness contrast over everything. So this will affect everything. Is that easier to see? A bit? Yeah, okay. All right, so it doesn't look the greatest on my screen, but it's fine as long as you can see there. Okay, so what I have is everything is on its own separate layer because that makes it easier for me to move things around and to work on. When I was building this, I built it all together, and because they're on separate layers, it's fine. I can still I can still work on them even though they're all mashed up together. When I was done creating, I also had the background from the game put in there because I wanted to see what it looked like with the background. When I'm done, I separated them out. And why I separate them out is because Unity will do a thing when you have multiple sprite sheets. It draws like a little bounding box around each one. So if you have, like, let's say, this head too close to the body, it'll draw a bounding box around the head, but it'll grab some of the body. If that makes sense. It'll kind of clip some of that in as well. So you kind of want to leave them to have their own space. Basically, make sure you can draw a square around it. And if you can draw a square around it and it doesn't touch any other parts of the sprite, you're probably okay. So once I had this, I saved that as a PNG. And close that. And in Unity, let me delete the one I had already. Okay, and I'll re-import everything. So I just import new asset. I'm going to import that. And it comes in as a sprite to the UI. It's a 1024 by 1024. But if I drag it in, it's probably too big. So if I want to resize it, I can just change that here. So in the pixels per unit, I can say, try to do pixels per unit, maybe 512, if I apply. Right? And I'm like, okay, that's about the size that I want. Okay, so it doesn't really matter the original size. I can resize how it appears in game based on my pixels per unit here. So again, I'm going to change sprite mode to multiple. Let me just make sure I'm recording this. Yeah. To multiple, because I know I need multiple sprites in it. And then I'll open the Sprite Editor. And I'll do an automatic slice. And that grabs each one of them. Okay. I will name this because if I don't, I'm going to get confused. So I'm just going to go character head, character arm. Anyone notice that I only have one of each arm and leg? And that is because I can do both, especially if I have a different arm and a different leg. But because in my case I'm going to do, they're both going to look the same. So I'm just going to duplicate them. So it just makes my work easier. This was leg. And I'll call that trident. Okay, cool. So each of those sprites are named. That's fine. I can apply them. And now I need to rig them. So if you remember from the week when I was in, you can create those bones and we can animate them. It's the same thing, but it's slightly different. So I'm going to go to the skinning editor. And I need to double click because I have multiple. The last time we did this, we only had one sprite, whereas now we have multiple. So I need to tell Unity which one I want to work on. So I need to double click, and I'm telling it I want to work on the body now. So I'm going to create a bone. I'm going to start from the waist. We almost always want to animate from the waist because if you think about like where your base is, your core of a human, it's generally from around the waist area, the hip area. So we're going to start from there. Will I need to bend? Maybe, I don't know if I will. Let me just do that so I can bend. And then if I want to have the backpack move, I'm going to have a bone coming from here to there. And then that'll have the kind of like the tank area move. I will also rename these bones because otherwise I will get confused. So bone hip, bone chest, and bone backpack. And then when I'm done with this, oops, and I want to move to the next one, I can just go back to preview pose, double click on the next thing that I want to work on, and this will just be my head. And let me make a bone for this bit as well. Huh? Your whispers are not very whispery. So, line, whatever. Okay, cool. So that's fine. And I go back to preview. Now here's the one that I need to be a bit careful about. So I'm doing the arm now. If I want to create, I need to create it from this rotation point. So the shoulder point, like where it's going to pivot from. So I need to make sure that it's at the right pivot point, like not here. I probably want it to pivot around here. And then the elbow, I probably want it to be here, possibly. If I want to, I can create like bones for all the fingers. I am not going to because I'm lazy. But you can. You can like basically have one here and then create fingers coming from that if you want to. But I am not gonna. Okay, so this is bone bicep, and the bottom one will be forearm. Cool. And I'm just going through. I'm not going to rig the trident because I don't need the trident to animate really. I mean, I could make it wobble and stuff, but in this case, I think the trident is just going to be a thing that it holds. So I'm just going to leave it. So it doesn't need a bone. The last thing I need to do is the leg. So create bone. Again, pivot point there. And I'll make like a little foot bone as well. And all I need to do is rename these. So bone, thigh, calf, and foot. All good so far? And then I just need to remember to go auto geometry and like generate. Generate for everything. There we go. So now that's generated for everything. I can go to preview and oh no, where my bones go? There we go. So I want to preview and I just want to test it. Okay, that's not great because you see the way it's wobbling the entire back of the helmet. So I need to go to my weight slider. Grab this one and have it affect less of the helmet. Go back to preview. Bit better. I'm fucking trying. Okay, much better. Maybe a little more. What? Do you want to try and do it?
No.
Okay. And then I want to make sure I want to check. On preview pose is where you want to check everything. You can reset pose as well. So that looks pretty good. I think that's okay. Yeah, that looks okay. Upper body looks okay. Backpack is moving too much, so again, I'll go to the weight slider and control the. Okay. That's much better. Oh no. Ugh. I can use the weight brush as well. So because I'm selecting this bone, I'm telling using the weight brush, I'm telling it to grab these vertices. Let's see if that works. It does not. Like the size of the bone does control how much how many vertices it grabs. But I can edit it using the slider and the brush, for example. So if I go back, that grabs the whole backpack. It's a little wiggle here, but it's fine. I think that's okay. Whereas this works fine, and then make sure that works fine. That's fine. Then finally, just check the leg. I'm sure the leg will be okay. It looks pretty okay. And the foot, yeah, that's perfect. Why is that funny? Okay, so I've applied. That's all good to go. I'm ready, and then I should be able to bring that all in. I'm gonna leave the trident for a sec. So let me bring these all in one by one. And one of the main things I need to do is set it up, right? So I'm gonna generate the arms and the legs. Okay, let me zoom in there. So that's kind of that's where it should be. They don't have a bone on them yet, so I need to make sure to give them a sprite skin. And then create the bones. And because I've already created them, they already exist. I just want to do the last run through to make sure they work okay. They do. Notice that when I move the arm, it's not doing the example that I showed you where I just move the thing and the whole arm moves with it. They're all individual bones moving. So I'll need to set that up as well. So that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. Okay, cool. Now is where I duplicate stuff. So if I go to the leg, Control D will duplicate, and I can move that over here. Notice that it's not the sorting order is incorrect. So I'll need to tweak their sorting layers as well to make sure things are in front or behind. Right now, let me just get them in the right position. I'll tweak the sorting layers in a sec. The other thing I need to do is, you see the way that's called bone thigh, and this is also called bone thigh? This is a problem because the way animation works in Unity takes the name of whatever it is you're animating and then sets a keyframe from it. So if I have one thing called bone thigh and then another thing called bone thigh, it's going to get confused. It doesn't know which is which. So I can just rename this. I can do bone thigh. This is R, so the right side. And this is bone thigh R. Bone foot R. I'm just being really quick and lazy here. Character leg R. And I don't need to say left, because I know that if it's not R, it's left. And then we'll duplicate that as well. Let me just rotate this one over there so I can see it. And I know that it's in front, it's not correct, but I'll tweak that in a second. So character arm R, and the bones are this way. Cool. All right, so now is where I need to do my sorting layers. So all the sprites that I have here, they are all by default on the default layer, the default sorting layer, which everything else in the game is on as well. I can create my own layer, so I can add a sorting layer, and I can call that player, for example, because I may want the player to always be in front of the default layer. So if I do that, everything in the player layer will always be in front of the default layer. Have I done that correctly? Or is it behind? No, it's behind. Sorry. You go back to the sorting layers. So I just need to drag that above. And now everything in player will always be... Oh, god. Why no? Oh, because it's not set to a player layer. Sorry. Let me set them all to player layer. And I had it right the first time. So drag that back down. Just test that with the head. Come on. This is sorting layer player. Made like this. Yay. Okay. All right. So they're all set to the player layer. So anything in the player layer will always be above the default layer. So I don't need to worry about anything in that layer. What I do need to worry about is the order. So if I say that my body, because I'm always ideally wanting to start from the body, if I say that's at 0, I can do like +1 for anything in front of it and like -1 for anything behind it, and continuing on the numbers. So for example, the foot is probably going to be, that right leg is probably going to be -1. So it'll be behind the body. And then the arm, if you look at it from this perspective, the arm is going to be again behind. So that's going to be -2. And we can keep going that way. So that'll be -2. So that if I do animate it, so if they animate so they're on top of each other, that's correct. All right, so one's -1, one's -2. The head can be, let's do the head as 1. So it's like just ahead of the, no wait, 2? What is my body? Layer 0. Why is my head? What is wrong with me? Yeah, I don't know why it went behind. It's on player. What am I doing wrong? 400. What is going on? Oh, I just have to press Control S and it worked. Then the arm. No, sorry, the leg first. So that'll be 2. And then the arm will be probably 3. And that should be good to go. So I can test it just to make sure. Yep, the arm moves ahead. Arms in front of the head. And all, like, I think the legs are correct. Say again? Yeah, the legs are correct. What do you say? Oh my god. What is even? Okay, so they're all separate pieces right now, but then you have the same problem that I did before, which is if I move the body, the head and the arms aren't connected to it. So all I need to do is child them to the right bones. So the arms, for example, I can child the arms to the chest bone. So arm, and the head to the chest bone. Okay, so that should be good now. So if I move the chest, perfect, they all come with, and they're all animating correctly. Cool. There's still a bunch of stuff left to do. So one of the main things is that I don't have the IK, it's called inverse kinematics. So I don't have that set up. So IK is where, if traditional animation with using bones, it's like this, where if I want to move my hand from here to here, here to here, I would like move the upper and then move this bone. And that, you can do it that way, that's traditional animation. Inverse kinematics is basically, you set it up as a limb, then if you grab the wrist, it moves like a limb, which makes it a lot easier to animate. So that's basically what we're going to do. Inverse kinematics is also useful for climbing stairs, so like it'll see where that limb is and put it on the floor, and then based on that animation it'll change the animation slightly. Or like if I have my hand on the table and I want to move the body but have the hand stay there, that's all using inverse kinematics. And it gets more useful when we go to 3D animation in third year. So for this, am I going too fast, by the way? Is everyone okay so far? It's recorded, yeah. Okay, so the last thing I'll do before we go for break is just set up the inverse kinematics. I'll just do one of them. So to do inverse kinematics in Unity, it's a bit weird, a little bit, but it's not the worst. Ooh, let me make sure the legs are also childed to the body, because I think right now if I move the chest, the legs don't move with. No. So let me just make sure they're childed to the hip bone, probably. Cool. So everything is linked to the body. Great. So if I move the body, everything moves with. Great. So I am now going to create like an empty holder. So just like literally an empty. In Unity, you can do something called create empty, and it's just literally empty. There's nothing there. There's no components. But they're useful because you can add components to them and you can use them to hold everything else. So I'm going to, on the body, create an empty. I'll call that player animator because later I'm going to add an animator to it. Let me just move it to the right position, somewhere like here, and I will child everything to the player animator. Excuse me. So if I have an animator component here, it will animate everything below it. Whenever you have an animator component and you create animations, anything that's childed to it can be animated. That's why I have this animator component there, so I can control everything below it. And on this, let's create another empty, and this is going to be my IK solver. I don't need to name it yet. Let me do one for this hand. So I'm going to put it here, like literally at the tip of where I want it to move from. I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to get an IK Manager 2D. IK Manager 2D, what do I need? So I need to tell it that it's a limb. You can also do a chain CCD, which is similar to a limb. It just means if you want a tail, for example, and you have more bones in it, you can put it as a chain, and then you can have multiple bones. A limb has up to 3 bones maximum. So that's a limb solver. It's going to look for something called an effector. An effector is just like, what am I affecting? So on this limb here, which is my left arm, at the tip of this, I'm going to create an empty, and that will be my effector. Let me just move it to the tip there. So on this solver, I'm going to tell it to use that effector. And you see the way it turned green? It knows that it's affecting that. So now if I move the solver, oops, I need to this one. If I move this, I need to create target. Sorry. There we go. So once I hit create target and now I move that, it moves like an arm. Okay, and this can be left arm IK. So if I want to animate this character, I know I can go to the left arm IK and I can move the I can move the left arm IK doing that. All right. So I basically need to do the same thing for all the other limbs, which I'll do when you're on break, and then we'll come back to a fully rigged character and we'll start animating. All right. So 15-minute break. I am recording this, yeah. It's basically me redoing the same thing 4 times, so 3 times for the other limbs.
Don't mutter anything under your breath.
What?
Don't mutter anything under your breath.
I will try to remember.
No, I don't mean that like that. Yeah, you'll think of me and you'll be like, fuck's sake, why did I get the cloud?
Why would I think of you?
That'd be the worst.
Sometimes if it flips the wrong way, just click flip and it'll flip back. this should jump to this. So I've set up the other IK solvers. So I can test them. They all work fine, and they're good. So I put the character on like a relatively flat area. See what? Oh, just to make sure that I have it correctly set up with relative to ground air, like a flat plane. Because if you think about it, I'm animating this thing, but there's no real weight. It doesn't have collision or anything like that, so it doesn't actually know where the ground is. I'm using that as a reference. I can then move it wherever I want, but right now I'm using that flat area as a reference. So if I move the character up and down, I'll know what ground is. All right. What I'm going to do now is on the empty that I had player animator on, this is where I'll add an animator. Ready for animation. And window animation, create an animation clip. Sure, let's create one. Let's call it. What do we call this? What do we call him? Robo.
Robo, he's not a robot. Call him.
Jon Snow.
Call him.
Okay. Take your time. We've got Robo Snow as a backup, but I'm waiting to hear this gem.
Too much pressure now.
What? What?
You're like Among Us.
Oh no. Okay, like it's got a terrible name, but it's fine. Oh, I forgot to give it an idle. Okay, well, I'll just make a new clip. So I'm going to call it _idle. So the reason I do this is so anytime I'm looking in the project file and I look for animations, I can search for like the Robo Snow Aqua, and that will tell me that it belongs to this character then. So I'm starting with an idle, which is the easiest thing, and the easiest idle to do is literally just the body bopping up and down. Like let's just go up and down. But let's have a look at that. So I will be grabbing this bone. I want to animate the bones. Make sure to turn on the red animation. Don't animate the sprites. Make sure you're animating the bones. Let's put it like here. Let's move it down. You see the way the IK is holding it where it should be, which is cool, right? So that makes like animation a lot easier. Imagine having to move that and then move all the other bits back to where they were. It's pain. So this is much easier. So that's literally it. It's going down. Ooh, why is it going down forwards? Let's go down back there. Let's test the timing. Okay, and then I can copy paste that to the end here. Okay, so that's a really simple, terrible idle. It's really bad, but it's a good start. So you always want to work from the hip outwards, so the main area outwards, so the parent to the children. So now I have this, I can do it, I can work from the middle area here. So here's where I want to mess with the IKs. So let's do like the arm kind of there, right arm maybe that. Right arm's moving too much, or maybe left arm isn't moving enough. Okay, and the feet can stay where they are. Let's maybe have the body move forwards, because it's a bit weird going that way. I know it's a bit funny looking right now, but we will make it not look as funny. Calm down. Do you want to? You can come up here and. Wait, hold on. Let me just copy everything at the start. I need to copy and paste at the end, and then I'll play. It's gonna look so dumb. So it's just a. But this always looks dumb until you sort of like get it right. I think it needs to be like that, to be honest. Like maybe the arms are. Okay, that's a bit better. Not great. But let's move that down a bit. And it's all about getting the right. Okay. Okay. Now we need to remember the chest as well. And the head. Okay, so it's a bit better. A bit. But remember what we said about like, it looks, one of the biggest reasons it looks weird is everything's happening at the same time. They're all compressing at the same time. But remember we said that that's not good. We need overlap. So an easy way to overlap, which I showed you already, is just like just randomly move some of these. I might try to keep the feet with the feet, sorry. And the arms, let's just offset them a little bit. And let's see if that works better. So it's a little bit better. I'm going to try and have the head last because the head's at the end, so it should move the last. So you see the way like the body and everything moves, and then the head still keeps going because I have that keyframe at the end. And now it looks a bit better. That hand is moving forward way too fast. Let's do it. Cool. So it's a bit better. It's not the greatest idle in the world, but it's much better than what it was before. Okay. So let's say we're done with that. Let's go to create a walk. And the walk is probably the hardest one. But I will show you hopefully an easier method. So the thing you want to do with the walk is you want to set it up so it is in the first frame of the walk cycle. If you need to, go and look at a walk cycle and literally just copy that. If you need to, that's the first pose. I will do that here. So I may want to have it, I like having it like where it's halfway about to impact. So like when you're walking, when you have the leg and it's about to impact, I like having it at that frame. For me, oh no, I forgot to press record. Yeah, we could do that. We could do a lot more of a bouncy walk. I wanted to show a basic walk because then you could just copy that. But no, I think I'll show a basic walk. Yeah. Yeah. So let me grab the legs. So when you're walking, remember, look at that. This leg is leaving, this leg is about to impact. So this leg is just leaving the ground. You can even have the foot like rotate, oh, come on. Rotate as if it's just leaving. And then we can have this leg about to hit. So just about to hit. Almost like completely straight. And we can even like up the foot as if it's ready to hit. Let's do the right arm forward. So always remember, if this leg is forward, the opposite arm is forward. It's always the opposite. You don't walk like that. Super weird. So you always alternate. So because my left leg is back, my right arm is forwards, if that makes sense. No, wait, sorry. This leg is forwards. This arm should be forwards. And that arm should be backwards. Cool. So always alternate. Alternate. Cool. Maybe further forwards even. Okay. All right, so that's first frame. Let's add frames for the head and for the chest. Should have done that first probably. So I want to have it so it's like chest is up and then it's gonna impact. Okay. So then I have this. To me, this is my method. My easiest way of doing things is I have all that, copy paste to the end. I remember I can resize this so it doesn't matter the timing just yet. And I like doing the opposite. So I'll literally like grab the arm and put it to the opposite side of the walk cycle. My left leg forwards then. Take that up. My right leg back. And that's just me. So it's exactly the opposite. It looks really dumb. I'll show you in a second. So it looks like it's going to look like it's just doing that in midair, which is really silly. And there's no weight, but this allows me to just like check timing and make. Man, it's really bad when it's streaming because it's smooth on my PC, but obviously you're seeing a really bad like representation. I'll bring a cable next time. So that's working fine. And now what I need to do is have the weights in between. And this is why I do it this way, because I have it set up so the end points are correct, and I just need the in-between weights. So in between here, that's where it's going to hit the ground. So hit the ground, body's going to hit the ground. Let the bodies hit the and then this leg hits the ground. This foot squashes up, so you can kind of see that happening. So just look at that right leg. So because I know where it's starting and I know where it's ending, and I've done the impact, it works pretty well, and then it comes back in. So that's all I need to do. So I'll just need to do that for all the left leg as well. When you walk, it kind of lifts up. So you lift up and then swing forwards. Maybe it's lifting a bit too high. Lift it down there. Okay. And we'll do another drop down here. The arms, I happily don't really need to do much. Maybe I will. Just swing it down a bit. And the same with the other arm. And then I need to remember the chest. Oops, sorry. And the head impact. So again, it's just hit the ground, so I want it to impact. And remember, they're right now they're all on the same line. I haven't spread them out yet, but to me it's easier to animate them all on the same frame. Because if I need to tweak anything, I can tweak them there, and later I'll spread them out. So I've done this. I'm missing a frame. I think it's this bone rotation. Yeah, it is. So I've done this. And now I just need to do this. The exact same one, but for the opposite side. I can copy, this is hip position. I can copy that. So I know. So it moves exactly the same. And remember I was talking about that sine wave motion? That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm copying and pasting, so it's up, down, but because I copy pasted, it goes exactly to where I initialized it from. And then the chest and the head I can probably copy as well, because they're going to be the same. So chest rotation, head rotation, they can be copied and pasted. So the head and the chest work the same, and I just need to tweak everything else, which is the arms. Don't know why they kind of squish up like that, but whatever. And then the legs, I need to make sure they're right. So the left leg is impacting the ground. And right leg should be trailing and about to swing forwards. So let's have a look at that. Oh, it's clipping at the end because I have some frames missing. So copy the first frame, paste again. And now it's much better. It's much smoother. Again, not perfect because I've done it in like 5 minutes, but it's fine. It looks a lot better than just like standing there waving its legs. Okay, so once I'm done with this and I'm pretty happy, let's say I am pretty happy, what I can do then is that distribution thing we were talking about. So let me grab the chest, but because they're doing exactly the same thing, more or less, in both of these, I'm selecting both those keyframes and moving both of them. So then they basically just like they have the same delay, if that makes sense. Head. I'm just offsetting them a little bit. I don't, there's no like way to do it. I'm just like offsetting them a little bit. I'll just see how it looks like. Okay, so the head's too snappy. You see the way it snaps back up? I don't know if you can tell. It snaps a bit up too fast, which means I've put the frame too far back. So head is here. So I'll offset it a little, but not that much. Cool. And it's probably rotating too much, so I'll need to go back in and tweak that as well. So head, maybe rotate not as much. And then copy and paste that to the other frame. Cool. All right, so then that's my idle. So now I have a walk. So I have an idle and I have a walk. Okay, and let's just go to the animator, which I have here. I have this, oh, this one was moving. So here's the idle, that's the default right now. Let me just make a transition and transition back. I'll have no conditions, but I just want to see how they transition. And because they're all using tweening, it should transition in correctly, hopefully. Let's see. So it should idle, then walk, then go back on. I forgot to save. So you see the transition between them is smooth. It doesn't snap and change. It's because it's using positions and rotations, and it's tweening in between. So that's good. That works out. So what I need to set up is the rest of the animations. Anyone tell me what animations I might need? What? Jump? Jump? Anything else? When I jump, what happens? Fall, right? So I need to jump, and then I need to fall. And after I fall, I need to land. So jump, fall, land. Perfect. Anything else? For basic stuff, we're not talking about like attacks or like getting hit or hurt or any of that stuff. Just like basic movements. Say what? Someone said turn. Okay, so turn is an interesting one. So I can animate it both ways. I can flip the whole thing and animate both ways. Instead of doing that, what I will do is I'll do it in code. So I'll show you that next week. Basically, I'll do a thing. So I'm going to control it. So if it's moving to the left, because its player is facing left, if it's moving to the left, it's fine. But if it's moving to the right, flip the whole animator. So I'll grab this, because everything is on the animator, I'll literally tell it to scale -1. Oh, sorry. Right. On the x-axis, and it'll just flip the whole thing. Okay? So that way I don't need to do two sets of animations. It's literally just flipping the thing, but it's playing the same animations.
Cool. Flip it now.
Yeah, let's flip it now. Yeah, just give me a sec. So press play. And it's doing fine. And that's the reason why I said to set up the animator separately. Because remember, the animator is just an empty, and it only has the animator component on it. All the sprites and the actual animations are childed to it. So if the parents, remember that like if a parent moves, all the children move with it. Like the children don't know what's happening almost, like they just follow the parent. And it's the same exact thing, because I'm telling the parent to flip, it's also flipping all the children, and the children's animations are independent of the parent. I guess they're all relative to the parent. So if the parents flipped, the children are flipped as well. So I don't need to worry about it. It's just like a quick trick. A lot of games will do this.
What would it be with the extras that you have? Like the parent animation? I know some games.
It would, yeah. You could add your own like I'd probably have to have separate frames for it because you need to have like a head forwards and yeah. It's a excuse me. It's a lot easier in 3D. 3D is a lot harder to set up because you need to model it and you need to rig it, and like the rigging and animation process is much more difficult. And but once it's set up, it's a lot easier because you can just like literally rotate. Whereas 2D, no. 2D, we got to this part. It took us like what 10, 15 minutes to set. Well, like half an hour maybe to set the whole thing up and start animating. It would take a lot longer in 3D. But when I want to do weird stuff like turning around, then it's a lot more difficult. Now, luckily, we kind of get away with stuff like just flipping it because like players are used to that in games. They're used to the character just like flip. And when you're playing a game, you want instant feedback when you're moving, so you almost don't mind that it flips instantly. If you think about it, if I'm moving this way and then the player like hits the joystick to the other way, you don't want to wait for me to do like the stupid animation turning. You want to be instant. I was going to say some games will also do a thing where they have like one frame where it's just a character like turning and has like motion lines. It's just like a single image and it has those motion lines, and they do that to flip in between. And if you do it really quickly, it actually looks pretty good. We can even do it where I can have a sprite that has just like motion line blurs, and then when I turn, it just activates it for a second and then deactivates it. So it makes it look like there's loads of little tricks. Excuse me. Game development is like tricks, basically. Trying to get stuff working without the player knowing. So I need to have a jump. My jump, the jump is going to be weird. So I want the jump to be instant. So if you think of like literally the most common platformer, Mario, when you press jump, there's no like ready animation. It's not like crouch, get ready, and jump. He transitions directly to jump. It's different if you're playing like a realistic game. So if I'm playing, I don't know, Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima or whatever, when you jump, there is a little bit of an animation because it's more realistic. But for something like this, because it's just a platforming type of game, I'm going to directly transition to jump. And I'm also going to directly transition into fall. The other thing I'm going to do, the impact, I'm going to do it as one frame. So it's literally just one frame, like as if it's hitting the ground. The reason is, remember, I have to transition. I can transition from one side to another, from one animation to another animation. So if I'm falling and I transition to one single frame, it's as if like I'm falling, and I'll transition to the down frame, and then I'll transition back to idle. So I don't need to have any of the in-betweens. I just need that one frame for the impact, because it'll run through that whole transition by itself. What?
The wonders of modern.
The wonders. Like honestly, you're not wrong. It's really, you just have to do this frame by frame. So let me do a really quick like jump. I'm just gonna set these up first. I'm gonna create a fall. And I'm gonna create an impact. I'll call it impact. Okay, so the impact's easy. I will just grab this, make sure it's recording, just hit the ground, have this up, and remember that it's only a single frame. Let me do the chest first, actually. So I'll rotate the body and the chest, and I'll grab those IKs. And the head, where's the head? So I'm really exaggerating it, like it's almost, oh, I completely forgot about the backpack actually. So I'm really exaggerating it. It's like almost completely a little ball, but because it's going to be one frame only, when I transition to it and back, it should be okay. Let me do the fall first, and we'll see how it looks like. So let's do the fall. Don't worry about it. It just resets when I... So on my fall, I'm going to make it look like the head's looking down, because when you're falling, you're like looking down. And I'm maybe going to make like the arms kind of waving in the air, and maybe 1 foot down, so as if it's like going to do a 1 foot impact. So let's see how that looks like. I'll just do it really quickly. Oh no. Oh, I am. Oh no. Thank you. So I need to just move them all to make sure that I have a keyframe for them all. So you see them adding the keyframe when I move them. Yeah, do remember, like everyone will forget, but like that's how you learn. You're gonna mess up and forget to record. It always happens. Cool. Let's have the arms maybe, yeah, maybe up. Like we falling. Like so. And I'll do like a really quick silly one just to get the concept across. Let's do like, oh, sorry. It's not amazing, but it's fine. Okay, it's really dumb, but whatever, it's fine. And then let's just do the jump. And remember that the jump is gonna be instant. So let's do the jump as body moving up, aiming upwards. And let's do like a really dramatic jump. For emphasis purposes. Yes. No. No, but that beautiful. Okay, hopefully I can do a thing which is select. No, hopefully I can do this. Oh, right click and I'm just selecting everything. Hopefully I can add property. No, I'm gonna do it for all of them. You know whose fault this is, right?
Not mine.
You should have told me sooner. It's your fault. Oh no, they're recording my gaslighting. It's gonna be on YouTube. Okay, I'm just, oh my god. It's really annoying sometimes. I'm just trying to get a keyframe for everything. So I need to move it slightly, just give it a keyframe. So I think that's okay. I hope. So that's jump. And I can animate that, but let me just leave it as 1 frame. And then I have my impact, yes. And then I have my impact, good. Oh no, what's wrong with my impact? What is wrong with my impact? Is that recording? No. It's really annoying that it turns off recording when you move between animations. I don't even. Okay, good. Okay, hopefully. Why is this arm? Why is this foot up? Welcome to animation, yo. That's weird. I don't know why that's. Okay. So let me delete these transitions, and hopefully we should be able to. This hopefully will not be like terrible, but if it is, we'll just have to fix it. So I don't have any code, but I'm just going to make it go from idle to walk, and while it's walking, it'll jump, and then it'll fall, and it'll impact, and it'll go directly back to idle. So again, these are all just going to play. They don't have any conditions. Next week we'll set up the code to make them do the conditions, but I just want to see whether it works okay. So walk, jump, fall, idle. Okay. You see the way it's pausing a little bit too much? And that's because if you remember exit times, I have exit times on. So on fall, let me turn off exit time. And let me turn off exit time on this as well. So it'll instantly... Oops. What's happened? Why? Oh, this one needs no impact, I'm sorry. Cool. So that's basically how we have it set up, and that's how they'll look like when they're transitioning in between. There's something wrong. Which animation has something wrong? Is it? It's jump. So jump has a problem. So let me go back to jump and fix jump. What is wrong with jump? Probably because I didn't have record on. Like, it looks fine here. I don't know why it's weird. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, there we go. All right, so it's running through all those animations, so they're ready to go. I don't know what other animations I might need for now because I don't know what this game is going to be. But for now, like just for moving around, jumping, and hitting the ground, I have everything I need. So once I set up code for this next week, that'll be just one class. It'll basically be able to move and run through all these transitions and play through all of them. Yeah, so get ready for that for next week. So for next week, I would like you to try and rig this. Don't worry, like try to create a character, like a crappy stickman character, doesn't matter. Just like something that you can do this with and try to run through this and have it ready for next week. If you don't have it, it's fine. I'll give you like this package and you'll be able to work with it. But I would really highly suggest trying it because you will make a lot of mistakes. And then when you go to make your actual one for submission at the end of the semester, you'll have a lot more like experience with it. He says, knowing that no one will do it.